Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the daily Manchester United podcast. It's Sunday evening, 7:30, and myself and Tom here are ready to react to the 1-1 draw against Arsenal that we saw on Super Sunday. And plenty to unpack here. Tom, welcome to the episode.
Hello, Niall. Hello to everyone. Yes, a much better performance than expected from Manchester United on the back of how they did in San Sebastian, I think it's called, in Real Sociedad. And so they came out with a very convincing showing against an Arsenal side who were missing some of their star players of Saka, Havertz and Jesus. But they still had the firepower to do it, I thought, did Arsenal on the day. And United basically kept them honest all match. I thought Arsenal were comprehensively the better team in the first half, but I think in the second half it was kind of even-steven. But it was that moment in the first half that what kept United in it.
Absolutely. And yeah, let's, I suppose, start at the start. Once again, you mentioned that Arsenal were kind of dominant in the first half. And to be fair, they were all over United. It was a similar kind of story of what we've seen in plenty of other matches where we just looked a bit, I suppose, lacking of ideas. It was a lot of kind of, if we won the ball back, kind of early balls into the channels, hoping that Garnacho could kind of do something. And to be fair, he did quite well on Calafiori all game. But I suppose from my side, I thought Odegaard was probably the standout player in the first half, and it kind of comes back to that point that we've spoken about, Tom, before, about having that 2 in midfield versus the 3, and it's very difficult when you have, Rice making those penetrating runs, and then you have Odegaard looking for spaces as well. There's only so much you can cover with Casemiro and Bruno, so it was a tough first half for United.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, like you say, Odegaard, I thought, was a huge threat in the middle of the park, and he gave the likes of Fernandes and Casemiro a very hard time of it. And we knew that Casemiro wasn't going to be able to sustain the level of pace and the amount of energy he was going to have all game. And Arsenal were always going to exploit that. So the amount of clear-cut chances were very, very limited, if any at all, that Arsenal had. They did have a few sniffs, but Onana was always able to get on the end of those, thankfully. But when stoppage time loomed at Old Trafford at the end of the first half, we got a free kick in a reasonable position. Fernandes took it, and it just absolutely set Old Trafford alight, and it got the fans believing in the side again. And that played a huge role, actually, is the level of support from the fans, given the protests that were happening before the game started. We saw it on social media. I saw someone showing on their TikTok of the live protest on their way to Old Trafford. How that had a bearing on the game, I don't know. Probably didn't. But I would say that it just underlines that the fans at Old Trafford are really, really important.
Definitely. How did it look? The protests in general, didn't get a chance to look at it. Were they out in their numbers, or what was the kind of atmosphere around it? Did you see?
I didn't see a lot of it, but it looked kind of expected. But we didn't see any of what we had 4 years ago when some United fans broke into the stadium and ended up on the pitch in response to this Super League concept that United had initially tried to apply to get into, which they didn't eventually. And, the fans protesting, I think, did play a part in reversing the club's decision, even though I wouldn't recommend anyone doing that kind of protest. But if you're going to protest, do it peacefully and do it properly. And I think the fans did it properly this time around. But yeah, I think it just sends a huge message to the board, particularly to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who was at the game today. He's got to really look at that and think the fans are really important to the football club. But I saw someone on social media as well, prior to the game, that when you look at clubs like AC Milan, who had been through such a torrid period, just like United have been, the difference between Milan and Man United is that Milan have such a huge fan base, but only within their own area. With United, it's worldwide. So there's always going to be fans turning out to the matches. There's not going to be fans that have paid for tickets and then all of a sudden decide not to turn up because they wish to protest outside the stadium. If you've got kids that are wanting to go to the games, you're not going to turn around and say to them, sorry, we can't go to the game because we're protesting against what the club is doing. It's not very nice on them. So you've got to be careful in what you do. But as far as the club is concerned, in the way it's been run, something's got to change, really, because it's gone from the richest football club in the world to not being able to cover lunches for the staff.
Yeah,
it's a laughing stock.
Yeah, it's a good point you raise about the Milan fans, because in a way and these are the United fans that go every week and live in Manchester or whatever. But as you mentioned, the global fan base of it is that if that person gets an opportunity to go to Old Trafford once every 10 years or once every 5 years, then it'll always be sold out. And, there'll always be a case saying, oh, well, there's I suppose plastic fans is probably what they're called, but they're probably not. They're probably following United every week, but it just don't have a chance to go to the matches all the time. So it is a really tricky one as well with, with prices of tickets going up and how you actually balance that between, the fans that are from the local area and then also the global fan base that you have. And it's definitely not an easy job. I wouldn't like to be in charge of actually trying to figure that out, but it definitely, from the protests that were made today, it is sending a message that the fans, are wanting to get their way, but also you can't really fault them. The performances this year have been so bad, and they've basically backed the team throughout all of it. All the matches that I've seen and that I've been at, the fans have backed them from the start to the end, really, which is kind of hard to do considering some of the performances we've seen. So, it's an interesting one in terms of what the protests and maybe what impact might happen from them. But yeah, you mentioned the goal. I mean, it was the only person that was ever going to spark something into that United team was Bruno Fernandes. They were mentioning on Sky Sports, there was nearly like a whole section about it, about how far away the wall was from the ball. And to be fair, it did seem quite far away, but I don't know if what your thoughts on it were, but they measured it at halftime and it said that according to their technology, it was 11.2 yards away from the ball. But it did seem miles away. And then even Raya's positioning was quite close to the other post, leaving a massive hole for Bruno to kind of get so much power over it and get it into the far corner, because, it wasn't like in the stanchion or anything. It was, a good bit in from the post. So it was interesting to see how all that unfolded. But I mean, you can't take anything away from him. What a free kick.
Yeah, we've not had too many of those this season where he's scored directly from set pieces. So for Bruno Fernandes to get a free kick put away like that was absolutely brilliant. That was one of the best goals we've had this season, which I think had ignited United's urgency to just keep hold of the ball and take the game to Arsenal. But it was a really good finish. And talking about that wall where it was like 11.2 yards away, would it have made any difference if they crept a further yard forward? I don't really think it would have done.
Probably
I think
not.
The wall, I think the wall jumped as high as they could have done, but the free kick was just spectacular enough to just get on target and go in. Would Raya had positioned better? Would he have saved it? Probably, but I think he was conscious maybe about, could he have got it underneath the wall? Had they jumped? Had he got it round the wall? Maybe gone to where Raya was positioning? I think that's what he was thinking. But it was the traditional way of how Bruno took the free kick at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting that you mentioned, Raya second guessing whether we go to his side, because as we saw, Bruno against Everton a couple of weeks ago went to Pickford's side and caught him off guard. And yeah, Bruno has that ability, and obviously the confidence is up over the last couple of weeks in terms of his performances. So yeah, outstanding free kick. The pace in the ball was unbelievable, and Raya probably could have done better if his positioning was different at the start. But yeah, it was definitely the spark that was needed from United going into the second half, because, and we'll touch on it very shortly, but that first half was very flat and we needed something to kind of lift it, and that free kick certainly did.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break there and I'll be back with a bit more coverage of the second half after this short break.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right level to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
You mentioned it, Tom. That goal sparked United into life for a completely different second half performance, and actually enjoyed watching United in the second half, and that's something I wasn't able to say a lot this season. But yeah, a big lift in energy and actual output as well. What do you reckon?
And confidence to put it on top of that. I mean, if you look at Xerxes, I thought he could have got the winner for us, or got that second goal that we would have got, because we did create enough chances in the second half to go and win it. Highland just needed to work on his first touch a little bit. The one where Declan Rice got back and was able to get a challenge in, which I thought was a very good challenge, by the way. But I think Highland's control just what cost him the opportunity to just get the shot away. And then there was one where Dello played into Mazraoui, which how Raya saved that, I do not know.
Yeah, incredible save.
He's been one of the best goalkeepers across the whole season in European football, or even in world football, to put it into those terms. But he's been absolutely outstanding as Raya. And the other one where it was in stoppage time, where Bruno Fernandes got on the end of Mazraoui's cross, and then Raya somehow just pulled off a fantastic save to just keep Arsenal in it. So
absolutely,
but that tells you something about United in terms of how they've been doing going forward in the match compared to most of the other games. There's energy in there, and there's confidence. The question is, what have they been doing all season? Where has that confidence been?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because, to be fair, they did create a lot of chances, and it was all down the one side. Like, we had zero outlet on the left-hand side. I thought it was interesting from Amram to play Garnacho on the right from the start and actually keep him there. He seemed to get to the byline more and actually put crosses in rather than kind of trying to take on his man and cut back in for a shot, which we've seen a lot when he's been played off the left-hand side. And some of the chances were brilliant, and I thought some of the link-up play as well between himself and Mazraoui on the right-hand side was excellent. Mazraoui was definitely bombing forward a lot more in the second half, and actually getting involved in the play, which was really benefiting from us playing those wing backs, and you could see maybe the potential of what that'll look like when we get the personnel that we want within those roles. I thought it was very fitting as well, that Mazraoui chance that you spoke around. Dallo played that ball into him from one wing back to the other on a counter-attack from United, and to be fair to Dallo, that piece of play was excellent. It was a beautiful little dink cross to the back post, and Mazraoui did absolutely everything right, kept it low. It was a hard shot as well, and then, like you mentioned, Raya just pulls off an incredible save, and keeps it at 1-0 to United at the time. But I was just so impressed, but then, as you mentioned, frustrated, like that we could be playing like this all the time, but the confidence of the team is just so low at the moment that they need something actually proven on the pitch to spark that bit of life in them to actually provide those performances, because in the first half they just looked terrified to get on the ball, and once they did get it, it was just let's get rid of it as quickly as possible and play something in the channels. So it is encouraging, but also frustrating, like you mentioned.
And one player I'm going to give credit to as well when he came on in the second half was Aidan Heaven. I thought Aidan Heaven looked comfortable and he got stuck in straight away. Signed from Arsenal in January, but he played with his heart. He played so much of his heart when he came on for Lenny Yoro, who went off injured at half time. I don't know how serious the injury is. I don't think it's too serious, but it may be that he has to miss the Sociedad game on Thursday and come on as a sub in the second half. So that might be an opportunity for Heaven to get his first start for United. But like you say about the confidence, we need to be seeing that more often from the team. Can we do that in the remaining games? Well, we've got Sociedad on Thursday and then Leicester away. We should beat Leicester anyway because Leicester don't score goals. And then we've got another game prior to the international break. I can't remember who it is we face. I think it's at home that we face off against. Can you remember who we play before?
I think we have Forest at some stage, and then City as well over the next couple of games.
I'm just looking at the fixtures as we speak, so just pardon me one moment. Yeah, I think Leicester's the last game, because it's FA Cup quarterfinals, isn't it? Before we next play Forest away. Best of luck to that. I mean, that's not going to be our season anyway. I mean, if we get past Sociedad, then we can almost write off the game against Forest because that's not our season, as I've already mentioned. But Thursday's game against Sociedad, as I mentioned to Kieran, is going to be our season regardless of what we got against Arsenal today. But that performance was much better than expected. That's 2 games in a row where we've come away from it thinking we would have taken that performance at the start.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with you on the point around Heaven. I thought he was absolutely excellent. I liked what I saw, bits and pieces of it against Fulham when he played the extra time, but he's quite big, but he's also extremely agile and rapid. Like he's got good movement to him as well, which is great. And he's also left-footed, which is nice, and loves a tackle and is decent on the ball. And it's very encouraging, to be fair, to see that. And he obviously had a bit of a point to prove. You know, he gave a bit of a fist bump to the crowd as well when he made a tackle in the second half there. And you know, he was training with Arsenal just a couple of months ago. So it's got to be a kick in the teeth for him as well, to be kind of let go, I suppose, when you're thinking there's a chance for you to get in there. And you know, I'd say Arsenal, in the back of their heads, obviously they have an extremely good back four now at the moment, but are thinking maybe we should have kind of held on to that for another couple of years and see how it goes, because there is a bit of a fall off in terms of the cover at centre half for Arsenal. And if Saliba goes, if Gabriel is getting a bit older, you know, if there's a lot of things that could happen over the next few years, and that could have been your backup centre back for the foreseeable.
Yeah, well, you've got Heaven now. I think he's going to be a regular first team starter, I'd imagine, at some point. I can imagine he'll play in the game against Sociedad. It's just whether he'll come on as a substitute or whether he'll be starting. But if Yoro isn't going to be starting, Maguire's not going to be coming back, Evans isn't going to be coming back, then you're probably looking at a De Ligt. He's probably going to be Matsurori, De Ligt and Lindelof in that back line, because Dorgu will still be eligible. Back. Yeah, because it's a UEFA game, isn't it? So Dorgu will be back in that left wing back role, and Dello will probably end up shifting into that right wing back role, even though I don't think that should be him in there, because he's been woeful this season anyway. It's an interesting one with Dello. He put in a Marmite type performance where there are times where he put in that dink for Matsurari, which could have been the winner.
Yeah.
But there was another one towards the end where I think it was further away, and he just absolutely skied it when it should never have been skying. And it really annoyed me so much, because I know he's better than that. But as we all know, Dello is not a left wing back.
Yeah, it's still probably traveling, to be fair, that ball. Like it was so far skewed off to the left hand side. It was incredible.
Probably all the way to Wigan.
Yeah, all the way, yeah. And the other moment was he made a great little tackle against Wanyeri and then breaks out and kicks the ball out of play when he's running up the pitch. So like, it just classic, I love your expression, the Marmite, because it was such a good bit of play, and then no one around him, and just kicked it out for touch. So yeah, it's just it's a strange one with him, because he's such like I don't know if this is bad, but like he's proper passion merchant. Like he's always like roaring into the crowd and like pulling on the jersey and showing the badge. But if he just kind of calmed down a bit and stop get so kind of scatty, some of his qualities great, but he's very unpredictable. So yeah, I can see him shifting over to the right hand side anyway for that Europa League game. But yeah, let's take one more break, and I'll be back with a bit more coverage of the second half.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Well, Tom, we thought we were in for a big victory against Arsenal, but a brilliant piece of play from Lewis Skelly, Timber in the box, and then a layoff to Declan Rice, and to be fair, an excellent finish. And our dreams of the 3 points was erased fairly quickly.
It was, but you can't complain about the goal, because it was brilliant play, as you mentioned, from Timber, driving on that right-hand side and then playing it back to Declan Rice, who was completely unmarked. I think Fernandes was the closest to him. I don't know why Rice wasn't picked up, but there was another moment where an Arsenal player just got on the end of it, and it was totally unmarked on the edge of the D where the penalty box was. So that was another one that could have ended up being the winner for Arsenal. Mm-hmm. But as it was, you can't complain about Arsenal's performance in the second half, because United knew that Arsenal were going to come back just threatening and threatening and threatening all the time. They had more shots in the game than we did. But I think in actual fact, in terms of the expected goals or the clear-cut chances, I thought we had more of them than Arsenal did throughout the whole match.
Yeah, and it's shocking hearing that, because the first half was so dominant by Arsenal. But as you mentioned earlier on, in terms of the clear-cut chances, that's been an issue for Arsenal all season, is that they dominate games. They have lots of good ball players around the back line and midfield, but they just don't have that kind of poacher in front of goal, I suppose, to actually get them those goals in those tight matches. And that was seen again, where they're nearly trying to walk the ball into the net because they don't have that kind of deadly striker to play it into. And yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think in the second half, then United did create those probably clear cut chances, and it would call for a couple of incredible saves from Raya. I think the going back to the Rice goal, there's a bit of stick online from him now about celebrating how he did when all his other teammates ran back to the halfway line. So they were kind of thinking, okay, let's get the ball and let's get the game going again. But I don't see anything wrong with it. Like, I mean, he didn't spend ages celebrating. He just did a quick celebration, shushed the fans, and then went back. So I think it's nearly people trying to grab headlines than anything else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I agree with what Gary Neville was saying, that he needed to get back to the halfway line just to get going up, because Arsenal needed to get another goal to win it. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme of things, the race for the title was over anyway, because Liverpool are still too far out in front, and Liverpool have got a Carabao Cup final to focus on next weekend, whilst Arsenal have got their next league game to look forward to, as well as the Champions League game that they've got against PSV, because they've got that 7-1 margin, haven't they? So they can afford to
be okay.
Yeah, they should be okay with that, yeah. So they'll field a weakened team for it. But, as far as the Premier League title race is concerned for Arsenal, it's all but done for Liverpool. But in the Champions League, Arsenal will feel like they can win it, even though I don't think they will.
Yeah. No, they definitely have a good chance in the Champions League. I think they're on a decent side of the draw as well until near the end. Is that right? I think they're on the opposite side as the kind of the bigger teams. So there's an opportunity for them to get a bit of a run there and probably meet someone in the final. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on. But I suppose main takeaways from that game, Tom, like pretty poor first half. Bruno sparks the team to life. Second half is really promising in terms of the energy, the application, the chances created. Like, we don't really create chances. The whole season we haven't really created chances, but there were today. Even when Højlund came on as well, he had a few chances that, some of them were unlucky, some of them he probably just needed to act a bit quicker, like the Declan Rice tackle you mentioned. So, we were creating chances. Are you encouraged by that going into maybe the Sociedad game?
I am, but I'm worried as to how long it'll be before we go back to square one again, because we've turned it on the styles against City, and then we went on that barren run over the course of Christmas, and then we headed to Anfield. Not confident in any way, because fans thought we were going to be on the wrong end of a drubbing. Mm-hmm. And we came away with a positive performance, with a positive result, even though I thought we should have won at Anfield. Followed by the trip to the Emirates at Arsenal, where United did put in a well-disciplined performance. Should have walked away with a win had it not been for that. Arsenal did score from open play, but it was that penalty that was given, which was a save by Bioniq, which, justice was served there, because it was a dive for that penalty that Arsenal got in the FA Cup game, but we got through in the shootout. And then it wasn't until, I think, probably recently against Sociedad, and then the Arsenal game we've had today, where we've actually put in a convincing performance. So I am worried now as to how long it'll be before we start, putting in a run of performances which the results will eventually align. Going back to what you were saying about Arsenal in terms of the draw they've got, should they get past PSV, which, let's be honest, they will, they've got either Real Madrid or Atletico in the quarterfinals. And if they get through that, they've got either PSG, Liverpool, Bruges, or Aston Villa in the semis. So I think you probably have to revoke what you say, because
definitely.
They definitely don't have any.
I don't know who I'm thinking of. Then I'm not sure who I'm thinking of. One of the teams that is on the easy side, but anyway, it's clearly not Arsenal.
Yeah, it's definitely not Arsenal.
Yeah, so that they're going to be all focused on that, I suppose, because as you mentioned, the league is definitely over. So Declan Rice can celebrate as much as he wants, I suppose. But Tom, thank you for joining me. Let's hope we can carry on this run of form. We haven't even won the game, but let's hope we can carry on the run of form into the Europa League. And thanks everyone for listening, and follow us on all the socials. Listen to wherever you find your podcasts, and we'll see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.